The great hall was bigger than anything Park had ever seen. It stretched so far that he could not see the end of it. The floor was made of black stone so smooth that it looked like dark water. Above him, lights floated in the air like tiny stars. Around him stood creatures from 400 different worlds. Some had tentacles. Some had wings. Some looked like nothing he could describe with human words. Was 52 years old. He had spent 30 years as a diplomat, solving problems between countries on Earth. He had talked to presidents and kings. He had ended small wars with careful words, but nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing had prepared him to stand before the entire galaxy as Earth's first ambassador. Beside him stood Lieutenant. She was 30 years old with short black hair and calm eyes that never showed fear. She was his aide, his translator, and his friend. Right now, she was checking the small device on her wrist that helped them understand alien languages. "The machine is working," she said quietly. "I can understand them." Nodded, he watched as a tall creature with blue skin and 6 arms walked toward them. This was the facilitator, an official whose job was to guide new species through their integration ceremony. "Welcome, humans," the facilitator said. His voice was deep and smooth. "Today is your naming day. Today the Arbiter will scan your ambassador and tell us what gift your species carries." Looked at the massive crystal pillar in the center of the hall. It was taller than a building, and it glowed with soft light. This was the Arbiter, an ancient machine built by beings who had lived long before any current species existed. No one knew exactly how it worked. They only knew that it could look into any creature and find their species' greatest strength. "Every species has one gift," the facilitator explained. He waved his many arms toward floating screens that showed the results of past scans. "They are the fastest beings in the galaxy. They are the strongest. The Telluric Collective can speak mind to mind across any distance. These gifts define us. They tell us who we are and what role we play in the galactic community." Watched the screens. He saw numbers and words that described incredible powers, speed that could cross planets in seconds, strength that could move mountains, minds that could touch other minds across the stars. "What if a species has no gift?" asked. The facilitator made a sound that the translator called a laugh. "Every species has something. The Arbiter always finds it. Even the smallest creatures have their purpose." Felt his heart beating faster as he walked toward the crystal pillar. Thousands of alien eyes watched him. Some looked curious. Some looked bored. A few looked worried, though he did not understand why. "Stand in the light," the facilitator instructed. "The scan takes only a moment. It does not hurt." Stepped into the soft glow that surrounded the Arbiter. The light felt warm on his skin, like morning sunshine. He closed his eyes and waited. The warmth moved through him. He felt it touch his mind, his memories, his very bones. It was looking at everything he was, everything humans had ever been. He saw flashes of human history, quick images of caves and fires, wars and weddings, rockets and ruins. The Arbiter was reading humanity's entire story in seconds. Then the warmth stopped. Opened his eyes. Above him, the Arbiter's display screen flickered. Letters began to form, but they were not like the other results. They were not blue or green or white. They were red, deep, burning red. The words appeared slowly, as if the machine itself was hesitant to show them. "Do not classify." For a moment, nothing happened. The great hall was completely silent, could hear his own breathing. Then the alarms began. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. A sound like screaming metal filled the air. Stumbled backward as armored guards rushed toward him from every direction. They carried weapons he did not recognize, pointed directly at his chest. "Do not move, human," one of them shouted. Was at his side instantly, her hand on his arm. "What is happening? What does that message mean?" The facilitator's blue skin had turned pale, almost white. His 6 arms were shaking. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "This is not possible," he said. "This has not happened in 6,000 years." More aliens were backing away from now. Parents pulled their children close. Diplomats who had seemed friendly minutes ago now looked at him with terror in their eyes. "Someone tell me what is going on," demanded. He kept his voice calm, the way he always did in dangerous situations. But inside, fear was growing. A new figure pushed through the crowd. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to blur at the edges. His movements were so fast that eyes could barely follow them. This was High Arbiter, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Stopped in front of and stared at him for a long moment. His eyes were like black glass, showing nothing. "The last time the Arbiter gave this result," said slowly, "the species in question destroyed 11 star systems before we stopped them. 14 billion lives, gone in a single generation." Felt the blood drain from his face. "We are not those beings," he said. "We are peaceful, we came here in friendship." "Perhaps," replied, "but the Arbiter has never been wrong." He turned to the guards. "Take the humans to holding. Seal Earth's coordinates. No ship enters or leaves their system until the Council decides what to do with them." As the guards grabbed his arms, looked back at the Arbiter's screen. The red words still burned there, like a warning or a curse. "Do not classify." He did not know what it meant, but he knew, deep in his bones, that nothing would ever be the same again. 3 days passed, and were kept in a small room with white walls and no windows. Guards stood outside at all times. Food came through a slot in the door. No one spoke to them. No one explained anything. Spent most of his time sitting on the floor thinking. Paced back and forth like a caged animal. "They cannot do this," she said for the 100th time. "We have done nothing wrong. Earth has done nothing wrong." "They are afraid," replied quietly. "Fear makes people do cruel things. It does not matter if they have 2 legs or 6 arms." On the 4th day, the door opened. High Arbiter stood there, his silver skin catching the light. Behind him were 2 guards, but they kept their weapons lowered. "Come with me," said. "The Keeper wishes to speak with you." And followed him through long corridors made of the same black stone as the Great Hall. They walked for nearly an hour, going deeper and deeper into the station. The air grew colder. The lights grew dimmer. Finally, they reached a door covered in dust. "This chamber has not been opened in 6,000 years," said. "What you see inside you must never speak of to anyone. Do you understand?" Nodded. The door opened slowly, making sounds like old bones cracking. The room inside was small and empty except for a single pedestal in the center. On it sat a crystal no bigger than a human fist. As watched, the crystal began to glow. Light poured out of it and formed into a shape. A being made of pure light stood before them. "I am the Keeper of Records," the being said. Its voice sounded like wind and water mixed together. "I am the last memory of a species that died long ago. I was made to remember what others forget." Stepped forward. "What is happening to us? Why did the Arbiter show that message?" The Keeper's light flickered. "The Arbiter has given the result, do not classify, only twice in all of history. The first time was for the architects, the beings who built the gates between galaxies. They created the Arbiter itself. They created me. They designed most of the species you see in this galaxy." Felt his heart skip. "Designed? What do you mean designed?" "The architects were not natural beings. They evolved beyond flesh and bone millions of years ago. Before they left this dimension, they seeded life throughout the galaxy. They created species with specific gifts. They were given speed. They were given strength. The Telluric Collective was given telepathy. Each species was built to fill a role, to work together in harmony." "Like pieces of a machine," whispered. "Yes," the Keeper agreed. "Like pieces of a machine. No single species could dominate the others. Each had a strength but also a weakness. This was by design. The architects wanted peace." Spoke up, his voice hard. "Tell them about the Hallowed." The keeper's light dimmed. The second time the Arbiter gave this result was for a species called the Hollowed. They were a mistake, an experiment that went wrong. Like humans, they could not be classified. They had no single strength because they had many. They adapted, they grew, they changed. What happened to them? Asked, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. They decided they were better than everyone else. They believed that their many gifts made them gods. They began to conquer. They destroyed worlds. They killed billions. Finally, every species in the galaxy united against them. The war lasted 200 years. When it ended, the Hollowed were gone, but so were 11 star systems and countless innocent lives. The room was silent for a long moment. "You think we are like them," said. It was not a question. "I do not think anything," the keeper replied. "I only keep records, but others think this, yes. High Arbiter believes humans should be destroyed before you become a threat. Many on the council agree with him. Did not deny it. I have seen what unclassified species can do. I will not let it happen again." Stood tall and looked directly at. "The Hollowed chose to destroy. We have not made that choice. You cannot punish us for crimes we have not committed." "The risk is too great," replied. "Your species is young. You have already fought wars among yourselves. You have built weapons that could destroy your own planet. Given time, given power, what will you become?" "We do not know," admitted. "But neither do you, and killing us based on fear and guessing is not justice. It is murder." The keeper's light grew brighter. "The human speaks truth." The architects left instructions for this moment. They said that if another unclassified species appeared, it should be tested, not destroyed. Made a sound of frustration. "Tests can be faked. Results can be wrong." "Perhaps," the keeper said, "but the architects were wiser than us all. They knew that potential is not the same as destiny. A blade can kill or heal. Fire can burn or warm. What matters is the hand that holds it." Felt hope rising in his chest. "What kind of tests?" "3 challenges," the keeper explained. "Each designed by a different species. Each meant to show what humans truly are. If you pass, you will be accepted into the galactic community. If you fail, you will be ended, finished. Quickly and completely. Earth and all its people will be dust." Grabbed arm. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. "We have no choice. We have to try." Nodded slowly. He thought of Earth, of the billions of people who did not know their lives depended on what happened next. He thought of his daughter, who was only 12 years old and dreamed of seeing the stars one day. "We accept the tests," he said, "but I want something in return. I want to choose who takes them. Not soldiers, not politicians. Ordinary humans who show what we really are." Seemed surprised. "You would trust your entire species to ordinary people." Smiled, though there was no happiness in it. "Ordinary people are all we have ever been. That is our strength, even if your machine cannot see it." The keeper flickered with what might have been approval. "Then it is decided. The tests will begin in 7 days. May you find what you are looking for, humans, and may the galaxy be ready for what you find." The light faded. The crystal went dark, and was left standing in the cold chamber, carrying the weight of 8 billion lives on his shoulders. The first test came from They were massive creatures, each one standing 4 meters tall with skin like gray stone. They had designed the challenge themselves, and they were proud of it. "Survive on a death world for 30 days, the commander explained. "No help, no rescue, just you and the planet." Sergeant stepped forward. She was 35 years old, small but strong, with scars on her hands from years of hard work. She had grown up on a farm in the mountains and had joined the military because she wanted to protect people. Now she would try to save everyone. "I will need a team," she said. "You may take 12 others," the replied. "Choose wisely. Most species last 3 days on this world." Chose farmers, engineers, and 1 doctor. She did not choose soldiers. When asked why, she simply said, "We are not going there to fight. We are going there to live." The planet was called 7. Its gravity was twice as strong as Earth's, which meant every step felt like carrying another person on your back. The air was thin and burned the lungs. The water was poison, and the predators were everywhere. On the first day, 2 team members broke bones just from walking. The doctor set them using sticks and cloth torn from their clothes. On the third day, a pack of creatures that looked like wolves made of shadow attacked their camp. They killed one of the engineers before drove them away with fire. On the 7th day, they ran out of food. Gathered her team together. They were tired, hungry, and scared. Some of them had given up hope. "We are not dying here," she told them. "Humans have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We survived because we help each other. We survived because we never stopped trying. This planet wants to kill us. Let it try." She organized them into groups. Some built shelters using the bones of dead predators. Some found plants that were not poisonous and learned to cook them. Some dug wells deep enough to find clean water. On the 15th day, the shadow wolves came back, but this time did not fight them. She had noticed something. The wolves were thin. Their ribs showed through their dark skin. They were starving too. She left food outside the camp. The wolves took it and did not attack. By the 20th day, the wolves were sleeping near the human shelters. They had become guards, not hunters, had made friends out of enemies. On day 31, the rescue ship arrived. The commander stepped out and stared at the human camp. He saw shelters, gardens, and wolves sitting peacefully beside humans. "This is not possible," he said. Smiled, her face was thin and tired, but her eyes were bright. "They were just lonely. We fed them. They stopped eating us." They had no response. The first test was passed. The second test came from the Telluric Collective. They were a hive mind, thousands of beings sharing one consciousness. They could touch any mind across any distance. They feared humans because human minds were strange to them. "Resist our touch for 6 hours," the collective said, speaking with 1,000 voices at once. "If we can enter your mind fully, you fail. If you go insane, you fail. If you survive with yourself intact, you pass." Dr. Bay volunteered. She was 40 years old, a brain scientist from Seoul. She had spent her life studying how human minds worked. Now she would test that knowledge against aliens who had been reading minds for millions of years. They put her in a white room with no sound and no light. The collective's presence pressed against her thoughts like deep water pressing against a diver. It was not painful. It was worse. It was like being slowly erased. She felt them searching through her memories. They found her childhood, her parents, her first love, her greatest fears. They pulled at each thought, trying to find a way inside. But was ready. She had spent weeks preparing. She knew that human minds were not like alien minds. Humans did not think in straight lines. They thought in circles, in contradictions, in beautiful chaos. When the collective pulled one memory, she gave them 10 more. When they found one fear, she showed them 100 hopes. When they tried to follow a single thread of thought, she tangled it with jokes, songs, dreams, and nonsense. The collective pushed harder, pushed back with everything humans were. She showed them love and hate existing in the same heart. She showed them grief and joy mixing like colors. She showed them the strange beauty of a species that could believe impossible things and make them real through sheer stubbornness. 6 hours passed. Walked out of the white room with blood dripping from her nose and a headache that would last for weeks. But she was smiling. "Your minds are beautiful," she told the collective. "So organized, so clean, but you think in patterns. Humans think in tangles. You could not find one thread to pull because we are made of knots." The collective was silent for a long time. Finally, they spoke. "We have touched 10,000 species. Yours is the first we could not hold. This is unexpected." The second test was passed. The third test was the simplest and the hardest. It came from High Arbiter himself. "Solve a problem that we could not solve," he said. Two species have fought over the same moon for 400 years. End their war. Ambassador Park took this test himself. He met with both species, the and the. He listened to their arguments. He studied their history. He asked questions that no one had asked before. After one day of meetings, he called both groups together. "You both want the moon," he said. "You have been fighting because you think only one of you can have it, but I noticed something. They only need the moon during what you call the dark season. They only need it during the light season. You have been fighting over something you could share." The room was silent. Summers for one, winters for the other. You never considered this because neither of your species has seasons, but humans do. We are used to sharing time. The N looked at each other. 400 years of war, 400 years of death and pain, and the answer had been so simple. They agreed to share. Watched from the back of the room. His face showed nothing, but his hands were shaking. All three tests were passed, but could see that this was not the end. In his eyes, he saw something that scared him more than any death world or hive mind. He saw a being looking for any reason to finish what he had started. The tests were over, but the trial was just beginning. High Arbiter could not sleep. For 3 nights after the tests ended, he walked through the empty halls of the great station, his silver skin flickering in the dim lights. His mind raced with thoughts he could not quiet. The humans had passed. They had done what no one expected. They had survived a death world by making friends with predators. They had resisted the Telluric Collective by being too strange to hold. They had solved a war that had lasted 400 years with an idea so simple that everyone felt foolish for not thinking of it first. This was exactly what feared. The Hollowed had been like this too in the beginning. They had been clever. They had been kind. They had solved problems and made peace. And then slowly they had changed. Power had corrupted them. Their many gifts had made them believe they were better than everyone else. And billions had died because no one stopped them when they still could be stopped. Would not make the same mistake. He went to the deepest part of the station, to archives that even the keeper of records did not guard. These were the true records of the architects, kept hidden because their contents were too dangerous for most to know. Had the clearance to enter. He was one of only 3 beings alive who did. The archives were not made of crystals or screens. They were made of pure thought, pressed into the fabric of space itself. Touched the wall and let the information flow into his mind. He searched for hours. He looked for anything about humans, anything about Earth, anything that might justify what he wanted to do. He found records of the Hollowed, of their rise and fall. He found warnings about unclassified species. He found weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. And then he found something else, something that made him stop cold. A file marked with the symbol of the architects themselves. A file that had never been opened since the day it was created, millions of years ago. A file labeled, Earth Control Subject Do Not Modify. Opened it. What he read changed everything he thought he knew. The next day, he called an emergency meeting of the full council. Every species sent their highest representative. The great hall was packed with beings of every shape and size. Ambassador Park stood at the center with beside him, not knowing why they had been summoned. Stood before the crowd. His silver skin was pale, his hands were steady but his eyes were not. "I have found something," he said. His voice echoed through the hall. "Something that concerns every species here, something that the architects kept hidden from all of us." Whispers spread through the crowd, raised his hand for silence. "We have always believed that the architects created us to live in harmony, that our gifts were given to us so that we could work together, that the galaxy was designed for peace." He paused. "This is true, but it is not the whole truth." He touched a control on his wrist. Above him, holographic images appeared. They showed the galaxy as it was millions of years ago, when the architects still walked among the stars. The architects did not just give us gifts, continued. They limited us. Every species was designed with one strength and many weaknesses. They are fast, but our bodies are fragile. They are strong, but their minds are slow. The Telluric Collective can touch any mind, but they cannot stand alone. The crowd was completely silent now. We were made this way on purpose. We were made so that no single species could ever rule the galaxy. We were made to need each other. His voice grew quiet. We were made as pieces of a machine, beautiful pieces, useful pieces, but pieces, nothing more. Felt cold. He understood now where this was going. But the architects were scientists, said, and every experiment needs a control, a baseline, something left unchanged to compare against the design subjects. He pointed at. Humans were that control. Earth was left alone. Your species was never touched, never modified, never given a gift or a limit. You evolved naturally, without interference, on a small planet at the edge of the galaxy. The hall erupted. Aliens shouted in 100 languages. Some looked at with fear. Some looked with wonder. Some looked with something close to anger. This is why the Arbiter cannot classify you, said, his voice cutting through the noise. You have no single strength because you were never given one, but you developed them all on your own. Not one gift, but every gift mixed together in ways we cannot predict. Lieutenant stepped forward. Then why the warning? Why does the Arbiter say do not classify like it is something dangerous? The Keeper of Records appeared beside, its light form flickering into existence. Because the architects left a message. They knew this day would come. They knew that someday the control species would reach the stars. The Keeper raised its hands. New images appeared above them. Text in a language that should have been dead for millions of years, but which somehow made sense to every mind in the room. They will be everything we could not become. Do not limit them. Do not define them. They are the question we could not answer. What happens when a species has no ceiling? Watch them. Learn from them. And when they reach for the stars, help them. The hall was silent for a long, long moment. Turned to face. His expression was strange, a mix of fear and respect and something that might have been shame. I was wrong, he said. The words seemed to cause him physical pain. I feared you because you were different. I wanted to destroy you because I did not understand you. But the architects understood. They hoped for you. They waited millions of years for you. He lowered his head. The humans are not the hallowed. They are what the hallowed could have been if they had chosen differently. They are what all of us could have been if we had been allowed to grow. Did not know what to say. He looked at the thousands of alien faces watching him, at the ancient words still glowing above them. We did not know any of this, he said finally. We did not know we were an experiment. We did not know we were special. We just lived our lives, made our mistakes, tried to be better than we were yesterday. The Keeper's light grew warm. That is precisely why you matter, Ambassador. You became extraordinary without being designed for it. You reached for the stars without being told you could touch them. You are proof that potential is not a gift. It is a choice. Nodded slowly. Then he did something that shocked every being in the hall. He knelt. The fastest being in the galaxy, one of the most powerful leaders alive, knelt before a human from a small blue planet. On behalf of he said, I ask for your forgiveness, and I ask for your friendship. One by one, other representatives followed. The commander, the voice of the Telluric Collective, species that had wanted humans dead days ago now bent their bodies in respect. Felt tears on his face. He had not cried since his father died 20 years ago, but this was different. This was the weight of billions of lives lifting from his shoulders. Stand up, he said gently, all of you. Humans do not want servants. We want partners. We want friends. We want teachers who will show us what we do not know and students who will learn what we have discovered. He reached down and took his hand, pulling him to his feet. The architects asked you to help us reach the stars, said. Let us reach them together. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy felt the possibility of something new, not designed, not planned, not controlled. Just hope, simple human hope. And it was enough. The council chamber remained full long after the revelation. No one wanted to leave. The truth about the architects, about the design species, about humans being the control group, it was too big to simply walk away from. Every being in the room needed time to understand what it meant. Ambassador Park stood at the center of it all. He was tired. His bones ached. He had not slept properly in days, but he could not rest yet. Too much depended on what happened in the next few hours. High Arbiter stood nearby, his silver skin still pale from the shock of his own discovery. The Keeper of Records floated beside him, its light form casting soft shadows on the black stone floor. The council must vote, said a representative from a species did not recognize. She had 4 eyes and skin like tree bark. The tests are passed, the truth is known, but the rules say we must vote on whether to accept humanity into the galactic community. Nodded, he had expected this. Before you vote, he said, I want to say something. The hall fell silent. 400 species turned their attention to a single human, a man from a planet most of them had never heard of until a few weeks ago. Took a deep breath. He thought of his daughter back on Earth, of his wife who had died 5 years ago, of his parents who had raised him to believe that every person mattered. He thought of human history, all its darkness and all its light. We did not ask to be the control group, he began. We did not know there was an experiment or a design or a plan. We just lived. We struggled. We made terrible mistakes. We hurt each other in ways that shame us still. He paused, letting the words settle. But we also did beautiful things. We built hospitals to heal strangers. We wrote music that makes people cry with joy. We crossed oceans because we wanted to see what was on the other side. We looked up at the stars and dreamed of touching them, even when we had no reason to believe we ever could. Stood beside him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. You designed your species to be perfect at one thing, continued. And that is wonderful. Your speed, your strength, your telepathy, these gifts are amazing. We have dreamed of such things in our stories for thousands of years. He looked around the room, meeting alien eyes of every color and shape. But maybe we have something to teach you too. Not a gift, not a power, just a lesson that we learned the hard way through blood and tears and centuries of struggle. What lesson? Asked. Smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was warmth in it. How to be many things at once. How to hold love and hate in the same heart without being destroyed by either. How to be weak in 100 ways and still refuse to break. How to fall down 1,000 times and get up 1,001. He spread his hands, palms up, showing he had nothing to hide. We are not perfect. We will make mistakes. We will disappoint you sometimes, but we will never stop trying to be better. That is what humans do. That is all we have ever done. The hall was completely silent. Then slowly, the representative with tree bark skin raised her hand. I vote to accept humanity, she said, not because they passed the tests, not because of the architect's message, but because I want to see what they become. Another hand went up, then another, then dozens, then hundreds. Watched as species that had wanted him dead voted to welcome him. He watched as beings who had never seen a human before chose to trust them. He watched as the galaxy made a decision that would change everything. When the count was finished, over 300 species had voted yes. Fewer than 50 voted no. The rest chose not to vote at all. It is done, the Keeper of Records announced. For the first time in history, an unclassified species is granted full membership in the galactic community. Welcome, humans. May you find your place among the stars. Stepped forward and extended his hand in the human style. Had taught him the gesture earlier. I was your enemy, said. I wanted you destroyed. I hope you can forgive me." Took his hand and shook it firmly. "There is nothing to forgive. You were trying to protect your people. That is something humans understand very well." For a moment the two of them stood there, silver skin and brown skin, alien and human, former enemies becoming friends. Then did something unexpected. He laughed. "You are very strange creatures," he said. "I think I will enjoy learning from you." 50 years passed. Admiral stood on the bridge of the first joint fleet ever assembled. Her ship was crewed by 30 different species, each one bringing their unique gifts to the mission, handled the heavy lifting, ran the navigation systems. Humans did everything in between. Dr. Bay had founded the Institute for Cognitive Exchange, where human and telluric minds learned to touch each other without harm. She was old now, her hair white and her hands shaky, but her eyes were still sharp. She had trained thousands of students, both human and alien. And Ambassador Park, now in his hundreds and kept alive by medical technology, he did not fully understand, sat in his room on Harmony Station and watched the stars through his window. Visited him every day. She was an admiral herself now, with more medals than she could count. But too, she was still the young lieutenant who had stood beside him on the worst and best day of his life. "The Arbiter scanned the new generation yesterday," she told him. "The children born on the station, the ones raised among all the species." Raised an eyebrow. What did it say? Smiled and showed him the display on her device. "Do not classify. Addendum, this is not a warning. This is a promise." Laughed. It was a deep sound, full of years and memories and hope. "We changed the message," he said softly. "We made them see it differently." "No," replied. "We became what it always meant. The architects knew. They knew that unclassified did not mean dangerous. It meant unlimited. It meant free." She looked out the window at the stars, at the ships moving between worlds, at the children of 100 species playing together on the station below. "We are not a warning anymore," she said. "We are a promise that anything is possible if you are brave enough to reach for it." Closed his eyes. He was very tired now. He had carried the weight of worlds for half a century, but it was a good weight, a worthy weight. "Tell my granddaughter," he whispered, "that the stars are waiting for her. Tell her to reach for them. Tell her to never stop." Outside the window, the galaxy turned slowly. 400 species lived and worked together. Wars ended. New friendships began. Children grew up knowing that differences were not walls but bridges. And somewhere in the old archives, a file marked Earth, control subject, do not modify was finally changed. A new note was added, written in the language of the architects but carrying a very human message. Experiment complete. Result beyond all expectations. Recommendation: continue observation, continue hope. They are exactly what we dreamed they could be. The story of humanity among the stars was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, struggles and setbacks and hard days, but that was fine. Humans had never needed an easy path. They just needed a chance. And now finally they had one.